I'd like to thank you for coming to this presentation on the Addison County Food Hub. I'm Steve Trombulak. I'm in the Department of Biology and the Program for Environmental Studies. And this semester I've had the privilege of teaching in MiddCORE, one of the programs offered at Middlebury College associated with entrepreneurship and creativity, risk-taking, and leadership. This week, the MiddCORE class has combined with the social entrepreneurship class that John Isham has taught. And over the last week, we've engaged in a project in cooperation with the Addison County Relocalization Network, or ACORN. And that is what you are going to be hearing about today, is the results of these students' work. So without any further ado, I'd like to turn the floor over to Mr. Kevin Tannenbaum.
Before we begin, we want to introduce ourselves. I'm Kevin Tannenbaum. I'm a sophomore in Steve's section of MiddCORE. I'm a mathematics and economics double major.
My name is Jake Nonweiler. I'm a junior, and I'm also in MiddCORE in the other section, and I'm a conservation biology major.
My name is Rana Abdelhamid. I'm a sophomore. I'm in the social entrepreneurship class, and I'm currently majored in political science.
My name is Aaron Toledo. I'm a graduate, and I'm in the MiddCORE class.
So on Monday, Jonathan Corcoran, who's sitting right back there, who is the chair of ACORN, right? Yeah, more or less. He approached us on Monday with a very challenging, broad question that really baffled us for a few days. And that question was, what would a food hub look like in Addison County? So the first thing that we had to determine is, what exactly is a food hub? None of us had really ever had experience with that before. So as you can see, this is a USDA definition of what a food hub is. And it's very long and wordy and covers a lot of different things. So in essence, what a food hub is any facility, centralized area in which food is stored, aggregated, processed, distributed, any or all of the above in any combination. So we had a lot of different choices in choosing what a food hub would look like in Addison County. So to begin that process, we spoke with various stakeholders, and we determined that there were three really different categories of stakeholders that took importance with this issue. So we had our producers, which were the farmers mostly, as well as some processors in the area, and then also our retailers and institutions as consumers. These stakeholders had many concerns and desires as to what the food hub might look like in Addison County. Starting with producers, we found that many farmers in the area were struggling with their marketing and wanted a lot of assistance in how to market their product locally and get more people interested in buying local food. Additionally, there was some need for processing, especially in the meat industry, and also just a little bit of a need for storage and lengthening the season in the produce area, as well as in many other farming areas. And we spoke to various farmers ranging from the dairy industry to the produce industry to the grain to maple syrup farmers and a couple of other areas. And those were the general observations and comments that we heard from them. And then moving on to retailers and institutions, they were very concerned with keeping price steady and making sure that any local food they could purchase is affordable, as well as getting food in large quantities and wholesale available to them so that they can that buying local food is feasible to them. So they really wanted an area for storage and aggregation. So keeping all of these desires in mind, we came up with a plan. So first off, our plan has a facility which we'll tell you all about, as my colleagues will mention more in detail. It will be located on Exchange Street, hopefully, is our vision. And it will have a storage and processing unit, as well as a distribution aspect to it, and a local community kitchen that anyone can use for a small fee, as well as an online aspect to it that provides a method for farmers to connect with retail buyers as well as institutional buyers, which would hopefully be an add-on to Sophie's HereFarmStand.com, which already connects farmers with individual consumers. And then finally, there'd be a marketing aspect for it through a series of bumper stickers and an ad campaign of some sorts to raise awareness about local food and help farmers get the word out. So now I'll pass off to Jake, as he'll talk more about what the food hub might look like.
Thanks, Kevin. So one of the things that we had to look at when talking about a food hub was the facilities. Was this going to be one building? Was this going to be 2 buildings? Was this going to be 3 buildings? Where was it going to be, and what was it going to look like? We thought that was going to be a vital question to ask. So one of the things we started with was, what would be a great location for this? Would we put it in the middle of Middlebury? Would we put it in Shoreham? Would we put it in Rutland? We thought that a great place for it would be on Exchange Street. There's already a lot of space there, and it's close to the town. And furthermore, it's accessible through the ACTR, and we think that's a really important aspect of this location. So, in terms of the facility, we wanted to think about what these producers ask for, what retailers ask for, and how we could meet those needs. So as Kevin outlined, when we talked to producers, they were looking for storage. Both producers and retailers like the Middlebury Natural Foods Co-op were looking to extend the season. They wanted to be able to sell local foods for a longer period of time. So we're hoping to include both a freezer and a cooler and have dry storage space. And this would allow us to accommodate a variety of farmers and a variety of products. This would not only increase the desirability for retailers, but it would also increase the number of producers that would be interested in this space. So as you can see here, this is what a freezer or a cooler might look like in terms of stacking pallets and that sort of thing. You think that'd be a great way to encourage producers to use this space. The other important aspect of this facility is a processing center. So when we visited the Mad River Food Hub, we found that a lot of small companies were really interested in using processing facilities. They couldn't afford $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 worth of equipment, but they were willing to rent out a space in order to make value-added products. So they take their raw materials, come and rent a space, and then they create a value-added product for which they can get a higher margin. It creates value for the company, and it's a great way to increase desirability of local products. So what we want to do is model our processing facilities off of the Mad River Food Hub and include an industrial kitchen with a lot of the same features that are listed there, as well as meat-specific processing rooms. When we talk to meat producers around Addison County, like Smith Family Beef, they express the concern that there aren't enough processing facilities and that often people are reserving processing rooms up to a year in advance. There's an extreme shortage, and we'd like to meet this shortage to provide more meat that would hopefully bring the cost down for retailers and would hopefully make producers able to produce more meat at a timely manner. The other thing that we thought would be very important is distribution. We wanted to provide this service but not mandate it because we wanted to make it cost effective for producers. So in terms of what my colleague Rana will talk about soon, we want to connect retailers, institutions, and producers. And what we want to do is give them a service that will make this easy. So we'll provide a distribution service that will essentially deliver the aggregated products that we have in the food hub. This will be great for producers because it will allow them to have a hands-off and easy approach to process goods quickly. But it'll also be great for retailers and institutions because it'll essentially be, or potentially be, a one-stop shop for them. The other aspect that we thought would be extremely valuable was the community kitchen. In talking to Jean, the director of HOPE, we thought that there was a significant interest for integrating local foods into the community. A lot of people, of course, they know what local foods are, but they might not know why they're valuable. They might not know what's available in the area. And so what we're hoping to do is integrate this community kitchen with places like the Middlebury Natural Foods Co-op, the local high school, local institutions, hold certification workshops for ServSafe, and give people the opportunity to learn about local food, but also use local food in these workshops. And we think the community kitchen would be a great place to do that. So now I will pass it on to Rana, who will talk more about the online marketplace of the Food Hub.
Okay, so similar to what Kevin spoke about earlier, earlier this week we had the opportunity to speak with the Director of Dining Services at Middlebury College and the General Manager of the co-op in Middlebury. And from what we were hearing, we were listening to their frustrations about increasing local food consumption within Addison County. And so we came up with the concept of an e-farm to help facilitate the process of increasing local food consumption. And the e-farm has a three-pronged approach which aims to aggregate local producers, connect farmers and retailers so that there's increased communication, as well as advertise the food hub and the services that it provides. So the e-farm is going to work with yourfarmstand.com, which is something that already came out of Middlebury College and something that Sophie has been working on. And Your Farm Stand right now has about 133 members and 43 farmers who use this website to connect and buy and sell different local products so that they could increase local food consumption. And so what we're going to do is we're going to expand this service by using a marketplace that retailers and producers can sell and buy from each other, and also have eFarmony, which will allow for future transactions. And then we also have a tab called Save the Slaughter Date, which I'll talk about in a moment, and a Learn More tab, which will basically aim to educate about the services that are provided by the food hub. So the marketplace, as you guys can see here, is basically broken up into different products. So there are baked goods, dairy, vegetables, meat, and prepared foods. And each farmer or retailer can you could either purchase retail or wholesale, and they could put up their products that they have, and the person who's trying to buy can look at the pictures that are on the website and try to purchase whatever product that they want. The eFarmony allows for future transactions. So for example, as we can see here, there's a farmer who has a cream cow farm and is interested in processing cream. So they could post on the website that they want to process cream, and they could look for a retailer who might be interested in creating an agreement with this farmer for the future. And then and farmers, retailers, and institutions are also capable of using this tab. The Save the Slaughter Date is an idea that came out of some of the conversations that we had throughout the week, and basically it stems from the problem of the costs of slaughtering in Vermont, because there's for a farmer to be able to slaughter their meat, they need a federal agent, which is costly. And so what this would help provide is an opportunity for farmers to collaborate, so they could come to one place and they could be able to slaughter all their meat in one day. And so, for example, right here, Farmer Dan is interested in slaughtering on January 25th, and so he posts on the message board and says, "Hi guys, how about we get together on January 25th to use the slaughterhouse?" And then other people could also agree with that, and they could split the costs of the slaughterhouse. And then for the Learn More tab, basically what that will provide is information on the services that are provided by the food hub. So if a farmer is interested in distribution or storage, they could go on this tab and see these services and use them as well. And it will also provide an opportunity for us to advertise traditional matchmaking, which is something that happens with Middlebury College already. So Middlebury College and other local farmers in the community get together traditionally face-to-face and make these types of transactions. And so we want to continue that tradition, and so that Learn More tab will advertise that as well. And we hope that this will continue in October and March, which is the farming season. That's all. And now I'll pass it on to
Thank you. So we talked to a lot of farmers, and we talked to Barney Hodges of Sunrise Orchards, and one thing that we saw was a big need for was marketing, because small farms couldn't really get their names out. So we looked around some research, and we found this model that started in 1993, which is when I was born, called CISA, Communities Involved in Sustaining Agriculture. And basically the way it works is start out as a free program where local farmers and local restaurants that serve local foods all got together, and they could use this slogan, this sticker. They used a bumper sticker, they put it on their food products, and at first it was free, but when the brand became valuable, they started paying membership fees. And the way it worked was it was a joint advertising where CISA would put these local farmers on the radio, in the local newspaper, and get the brand name out. So when people saw this logo, they knew that these products were locally grown and people would be interested in getting involved in these products. And a lot of the majority of the farmers and restaurants who use this saw their sales boost over the years from using this and being a member of CISA. So we propose doing the same sort of campaign, starting out with a free campaign using these logos. And once the brand became more valuable, once we got more advertising, it went into local papers, then we could begin charging membership fees. I think CISA charged around $120, so nothing too prohibitory, and get the name out and just more advertising and more name recognition for all the local foods out there.
So that is essentially what our proposal is. It involves a storage and distribution facility as well as a community kitchen on Exchange Street in Middlebury. It's not too far from here because of the ACTR access as well as the access to the hub of Madison County in many ways out as well. And then also the online aspect and the marketing aspect. At this point, I'd also like to thank our 10 other team members who poured their week into this project. They're all sitting back there. If you guys just stand up. And also, open the floor to any questions that there may be. Start with Acorn Board, maybe. You guys seem probably the.
Can you talk a little bit more about CISA, sort of how big a staff they started with, how fast they grew?
Yeah,
Yes.
also you guys can come up and answer
We're going to pass
questions.
this on to Jeannie, who did the research on this.
Great. So I don't know how many staff they started with, part of your question, but yeah, they started in 1983 as a Be a Local Hero, Buy Locally Grown marketing campaign. Really was the center of what they started around. And now they do a lot of other matchmaking services and farm to school stuff that's already going on in Vermont a whole lot. But yeah, they started in 1993. They've had a really, really successful campaign. They consider themselves the best marketing campaign for local foods in the country. And while their slogan itself is trademarked, so that's why we came up with our own new Stay Local, Eat Local, they're really happy to consult with any other organizations around the country and in Vermont to share their model with us and help advise us and get local foods going.
And I think one important thing to notice about this CISA model is that choose counties in Massachusetts is a very small scale campaign, and that added to its success. So our campaign focused on Madison County only, and that's an important aspect.
Yeah, because of the Vermont Fresh Network already, obviously, that has the farmers and restaurants can have that logo to show that they're a Vermont local farm or restaurant, but that's for anywhere in Vermont, and so this would specify Madison County.
I'd like to say congratulations. You guys did a really great job. I know critical thinking is a big part of what this is about, and these are definitely salient issues that we as a board grapple with, and you've just done a really fabulous presentation, and you've hit all of the kind of the bellwether marks of the issues. So nice job, well done.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think I saw a question over here.
How big would you plan on making the food hub?
We didn't have any particular numbers. We definitely consult with Maverick Food Hub, he's thought a lot about space, Robin Morris. But because we didn't have a particular interest from producers in the amount of volume and that sort of thing that they would use, we couldn't make a particular estimate. But it's definitely a game between making it too big and too small, because if you make it too big, you're losing rental space that's never rented, and if you make it too small, then you're going to lose markets that are, recognizing, oh, it's too small, I can't store there, and then they, lose that share. So.
Do you have a business model idea for this revenue stream, ownership?
Somewhat. We only had 4 days, so we couldn't quite fully comprehend all that. Especially the costs it was very hard for us. We don't have, I don't think any of us have a background in farming and food production, so it was very hard for us to come up with the costs and also to really quantify the demand. We know there is demand for all the services that are provided. However, the model that we assume that we use is a subscription fee, a membership fee to join the food hub, and then the price structure is very negotiable and probably needs some more research done on it. However, we envision either a all-encompassing membership fee or a variable one in which you pay per service as an a la carte sort of aspect.
And the other thing we hope to do as well, we hope that the main source of our revenue will be the renting these facilities, so either through storage or through processing. And we think that that would be a great way to bring in revenue, because that's essentially what the Mad River Food Hub is doing right now. They don't buy or sell goods, which is what we would maintain that model, not buying or selling anything, never holding food ourselves as owning something. So we would try to get most of the revenue from that. And we would also, we talked about being an LC3, which would allow us to receive grants. So we would consider that too as a source of revenue to help us, be reasonable for producers.
I guess it might be interesting. So this would be a for-profit.
Quasi. Are you familiar with the LC3
I am.
classification?
So my question being, or my thought being, it might be interesting to think about a community-owned or worker-owned kind of cooperative model, so
Right.
that the participants also own.
Absolutely, that's something definitely worth considering.
We definitely thought about that too. And that's something that we hope can be fleshed up a little bit more once we talk to producers and, the price structure and all that sort of stuff. The reason we went with the LC3 models, we were thinking that it would be more sustainable if we had stream of revenue. But if people are not willing to pay that, maybe we could go into more a sort of a cooperative type of ownership that would allow people to, have more ownership.
Another thing about the cooperative model is one of the major issues with local foods coming in through Addison County is that farmers' time is a commodity. And with the cooperative, that involves a lot of time, effort in running the organization. And if you have a central management team that is trying to maximize profits as well as provide services to the farmers, I personally think that can be very powerful. Although the cooperative is also very useful if you can find people who have time to run it.
So is there likely to be a phase 2 of this? Because I don't think the business model is important, and the upfront infrastructure costs, like are you going to build this building? But is it likely at all that this might continue on as a real possibility for the community?
I think we would.
Yeah, I think that depends entirely on whether people in the community feel that the ideas we propose resonate with them and make sense. And we'd be glad for, to provide whatever other insights we've gained from this week. But this has been a 1-week venture for us, and so however it goes forward, that will definitely be in partnership and in collaboration with everybody in the room or beyond here today.
Yeah, and also, you have all of our contact information in the memo. We have all 14 of our email addresses listed out. Also, Steve Trombulak is a great contact for that. As our mentor this week, is very helpful.
I also like to make the distinction that there will definitely be some costs with creating the facility, but operational costs should be sustainable. And we do not want to rely on grants for that. And that's one of the aspects of the supposed business model that we are still thinking about.
I just want to add to that and to highlight a point that was on the first slide. This project was done in cooperation and largely with the inside of Acorn. So if there is a phase 2, it will emerge from Acorn. And I know as an institutional buyer, Middlebury College would love to continue to be involved in the conversation of local food. And I personally am also interested in this as a citizen of the county. So I hope there's a phase 2. I hope it happens soon enough that all the fine young people you see standing in front of you will still be here and able to be engaged in this project, and they will tell you individually what their consulting fees are.
Or maybe some of them will participate in FoodWorks this summer, and it's a challenge we can tackle that.
Yeah, Jonathan.
Again, congratulations. I know you had such little time, and I'm really impressed with I was just wondering how deep you could go with such little time, but really kudos. Well done. And I have a couple of questions. I'm really interested in terms of everybody you spoke to. What was their reaction to the premise about a food hub, especially producers? What did you get from that? So that's one question. Also, with respect to producers, any ideas about an Addison County crop? Something that we could really focus on in the county as kind of our specialization.
I think,
Go ahead.
I think to throw those two questions into kind of one answer, and feel free to jump in, that's something we really struggled with, because even though Addison County is 85% dairy, we had every single producer that we talked to was like, well, I want this, and I want that, and I want this, and I want that. And that was something we really had a hard time with, was, okay, well, how do we provide all these solutions to all these interests? Because, you know, like it or not, we can't provide all the dairy facilities, and all the meat facilities, and all the grain, and all the produce, and that sort of thing. So what we kind of did is we tried to target the people that were most in need, meat being one of them. Dairy, we found, was pretty self-sufficient. They had their business pretty much taken care of, and a lot of their processing was a lot easier. But for meat, it was much more costly for those machines, and they had a lot more need for that. But I think if there are some other farms that you guys talk to specifically.
Yeah, well, I think generally a lot of the farmers we spoke to were apprehensive about the idea of their produce going through a food hub, because that would decrease their profit margin if they're selling at a lower price to the then go and sell it to someone else. And that's really why we came up with this matching model, instead of the food hub actually buying and aggregating the produce. So we could facilitate the purchases, but we could actually mess with the pricing. I think that's something we tried to consolidate.
And a county product?
We're 85% dairy. Milk. We did. I don't think we talked about that very much.
I was able to speak to Matthew yet, and like from my conversation with him, like, and his experience with farmers, is that there's a lot of tradition and like history embedded in like farming industry, and so like families have been like raising a crop for like for like years and centuries, and like they don't necessarily want to switch over just because it's more profitable. And so I feel like that, like that's why it's so varied in a way.
We think there's definitely a market in meat, and one thing that we kind of talked about Charlie Sargent, who's the chief buyer for the college, is that we think that local meat could be more popular if it was cheaper, and we think the reason it's so expensive is because processing and slaughtering is so inaccessible, so it's very difficult for people to access that. So hopefully if we would provide an affordable way to do that, that prices could come down a little bit and it could be affordable, and not necessarily to say that we would have Addison County ground beef, but I think that's definitely something that could come through with this model.
One other question. I see you sort of piggyback this on your farm side for the e-farm, and I understand why you would do that, given the time. But that is a retail platform, and I think what we're lacking in this county is more of a wholesale platform. And I was just curious, sort of why you chose that rather than maybe even proposing a new site.
One of the things we noticed is that Addison County has a very substantial infrastructure when it comes to food and local food networks, although it's very spread out and not centralized. So your local food stand regularfoodstand.com is a great already running infrastructure that Addison County has, and so you did a great job with it. It's fantastic. And we thought that and we thought that expanding that, it's an already known platform, to provide a wholesale aspect could be very effective.
Can I just comment on that? I actually think it's a really interesting idea, because if we try to send everyone to one space instead of creating all these different platforms, then it's streamlining everything, and you don't have to keep all these different sites and one different names. I mean, it gets confusing.
Yeah.
So,
That was
try, guys.
I think you had a question for a while.
So this is great. I just want to say congrats to you guys, especially with the time constraints. I just had one question, because I didn't catch your name, but you were talking about the matching model. Yeah, about the prices so that farmers can have a profit. And correct me if I'm wrong, but part of the food hub's goal is to increase local food consumption in the county. But local foods are already kind of out of the price range for people who probably could best benefit from it, or maybe that's not the right wording. And so in your project, did you see any gap where that sort of, that prices can come down? I know you said if you have more distribution, maybe prices can go down, but prices are already out of the range for a lot of people in this county. And so I just was wondering if you had any thoughts about that.
In my opinion, that was the hardest thing. That was the hardest thing to deal with. Trying to lower the prices so that everyday people can buy local food, but then at the same time allowing the farmers who grow it to earn a living. And that was a major conflict and the biggest roadblock in my opinion.
I think also we heard from a couple of farmers though that they really believe that their food isn't more expensive than comparable food in the grocery store. And so if people go to the farmer's market and buy directly from their farmers, they're cutting out all those middleman costs. The farmer is getting a livable wage and the consumer is getting a price that's comparable to what they can find elsewhere.
And one of the other things we kind of looked at was why is local food more expensive? And a lot of that is they're doing a lot of their own processing, they're doing a lot of their own, I mean, when you have to, say local beef, you're slaughtering 25 cows and you're paying the same that someone's paying to do 2,500. And so their costs into creating their product are much higher. If we were to lower those costs, they can make the same profit and still charge a much lower cost. So that was one of their goals.
You see with processing, so at that low level, a very high fixed cost so you need to have a high output to cover that, but it's hard to do that with a small farm.
And then I just had one other question, sorry. I think the online site is great, but it's a good percentage of this population in this county don't even really have access to internet or have very limited use of it. And so I don't know if you guys have any thoughts with that as well, just with regards to how to get most people connected to the one central component.
That's why we also included this like traditional matchmaking, which already takes place in Addison County. And so this online hub would be like, what's next, you know? So like from this traditional method of matchmaking, you know, like product placement, product transaction, like then we would be able to also create this online space for that as well. New farmers.
I think also that's where the marketing campaign really comes in. Looking at even the price range and how it may be more expensive to be buying local, the marketing campaign, and even just in our own research, I know I learned that, maybe the prices don't even need to come down, even if they are a little higher, because if marketing's out there and teaching people how much more valuable a high-quality local crop is, then we'll be willing to, and I think they will, to spend a little more on some local goods.
I think what we need to think about is that we're targeting people who can already afford it. Because at this point in time, we cannot possibly lower the prices to give farmers, small local farmers, a livable wage, and also provide food at a price that is so, I would say, economical for a lot of consumers. So at this point, we're trying to market it first to make it more desirable.
Yeah, I just want to add, I'm Annie, and I'm on the Acorn board, and I'm working right now, this very day, locking in a date for an actual matchmaker event at the college. So if anybody does want to come and just kind of observe, March 27th, and I'm sure we'll be able to spread it around, but it is an opportunity to see commerce in action, producers meeting new buyers, buyers maybe establishing or shoring up existing relationships with producers that they're purchasing from. It's really fun, it's dynamic, it's like local food meets speed dating. It's fun.
Another thing I would add to the question about how people don't necessarily have access to the internet is that one farmer I spoke to said that he thinks the best piece of local food infrastructure we have in Addison County is the Middlebury Farmers Market. And that really rang true to me. It's a place where people can come and interact and get the personal interaction with their food and get reasonable prices. So I think that's our perfect example, and since that already exists, we focus on other aspects.
I was just gonna ask make a comment about what Ness said about access and whether the model might consider somehow building in some type of subsidizing folks from like the food bank or gleaners who could come in and actually access the processing and the facilities and the training at sort of a no cost to them.
I think that's definitely something that we would love to do if we have the revenue. And I think that that's one thing to consider with future development of the business model is how can we make it affordable for everybody, and how can we get enough revenue from one stream that's willing to pay it to subsidize another part of it with people that are less willing to be in it. So
that would be a great part.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's sort of the communication space would fulfill a lot of those needs. That was our idea.
Which had a lot to do with why we chose Exchange Street for the location, because there were a lot of other locations maybe in Shoreham or elsewhere that would be hard to find, but right on the ACTR line, it's an easy, accessible place for people that might not have access to transportation.
When you were looking at markets and distribution, how large of a geographic area were you looking at? Were you thinking county, region, state, beyond?
We were thinking most importantly Addison County and having access to that, which Millbury and Exchange Street has access to Route 7, Route 125, Route 30, you can get the 22A fairly easily. So it really can get through the majority of Addison County effectively. However, we also wanted to make sure that the hub could distribute media center to get out of Addison County into the rest of the state and into other markets if need be. So and the best location for that would have been Route 22A in Shoreham, near Vermont Refrigerated Storage. However, we figured that in a trucking route, the extra 20 minutes to get to Exchange Street was not a negative enough to outweigh the accessibility to downtown Middlebury and the rest of the county.
And our whole challenge was, what does a food hub in Addison County look like? The whole point was to keep the food in Addison County, get people from Addison County eating it, because there's a large gap in between the food that's produced here and what people living here are eating. So the goal was to kind of make that smaller.
There have been a few hands over here that have been for a while.
I guess maybe a more comment. So I'm from Western New York, and we've been talking about creating a food hub in our community also. And one of the value adds is the community kitchen, especially for people who are economically marginalized, who might want to start small businesses processing food. And so I'm wondering if that, I guess that's just a comment, but I think if you guys have been thinking about that too, is the commercial community kitchen for small entrepreneurs.
Yeah, that was definitely part of the idea behind the community kitchen. We had a couple different ideas for how it could be used. We wanted to incorporate as many members of the community as possible. One of them is definitely, getting entrepreneurs to try to incubate that small business, even if you're just growing stuff in your yard at home.
Right.
And since it's not going to be an industrial level kitchen, we were hoping to get, incorporate a farm to plate school and get field trips in there, maybe cooking classes, to teach people how to cook with seasonal produce, things like that. So we threw out a lot of ideas. That was definitely one of them.
Another aspect that was that we were also thinking of offering business help for small business incubation. So one center that we contacted was the Vermont Food Venture Center, where they do this on a large scale. They help with business planning, financing, websites, and they have a whole team of people who are there just for the purpose of small business incubation.
Do you guys get any sleep?
No, we're actually, most of us are sick.
Yeah, just another quick question because it just occurred to me when you said Exchange Street. Do you guys talk to Greg's Meat Market at all?
Yeah,
Because they have the process.
We went to Greg's.
Tried. We're still waiting for a call back.
Yeah, we have a lot of calls that are out still and still coming back to us. But.
it sounds like there's a separation between processing and a slaughterhouse. And so if you're going to do this processing and increase demand, what's that going to do to the slaughterhouse, and how do you think you can increase the supply of the slaughterhouse?
There's Green Pasture Meats is developing a mobile slaughterhouse that they're hoping to deploy fairly significantly in the area. The reason we, at least from my opinion, did not jump into the slaughterhouse stuff and integrate that is because it's a significant endeavor with the USDA and inspections and that sort of stuff. And though processing also requires a lot of inspections, it's something that we thought would best be kind of separated because of just keeping in line with this food hub community center and not necessarily like, you know, a slaughterhouse in the back of the community kitchen. So we realize that it's going to be separated somewhat, and we hope that there will be some solutions. But we know that there are definitely some businesses like Green Pasture Meats that are trying to meet that demand because it's definitely a problem.
And a big part of what we're doing with the food hub is not trying to step on anyone's toes. You know, we see that coming up, and we're interested to see how that goes for slaughterhouse in Addison County. And then another aspect is that this is, I mean, it hasn't started yet. We hope the food hub becomes something, but we are, like we said earlier, kind of in the first step. And so it is kind of it's capable to change. And so if we see that demand really increasing and other slaughterhouses getting a lot of demand, and that's something that we can definitely get on the lines of, but it's a pretty expensive endeavor. So for starting, I think we're staying away from it and seeing how the rest of the processes go.
I imagine that this PowerPoint will be available on the Acorn website as a tie to your work, or is that being considered at all?
Sure, we can pass it on to you.
Yes.
Absolutely. If you want it on there.
Yeah, well, that's what we're all about. We're all about networking and sharing information, and I think this is a great project. It's fun to be part of it.
So we'll pass it off to Jonathan.
I just want to do a shout out and thank you, Jonathan Corcoran, president of Acorn, who worked with us to develop the challenge and worked with us through all of this, and Sophie Esser-Calvi, who is the food and farm educator here at Middlebury College. And without their participation in this, everything that you heard today would have been very different. But fundamentally, it comes down to the people that you see in front of you. So join me in thanking them. And to all of you for coming.